Okay, this video is going to be about performing the order of operations. A good way to remember the order of operations is by parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction. Okay, parentheses is first, then you perform exponents, then you perform multiplying or dividing. So it's not multiplying then dividing, it's actually multiplying or dividing. So what you have to do is kind of draw arrows on this side. So these two operations are siblings, and you're supposed to perform whichever one you see first from left to right. After you finish multiplying or dividing, you have to do adding or subtracting. Whichever one comes first, adding or subtracting. So subtracting could be done before addition if you see it first in the problem. Again, you're going to do those two from left to right, whichever one you see first, adding or subtracting. Again, going back. Parentheses, exponents, multiply or divide, add or subtract. Here's our first problem. 20 minus 2 multiplied by 3 to the second power plus 5. So that seems like a very complicated question, but what you should do is just one step at a time. It doesn't look like we have any parentheses, so parentheses is going to be crossed out. We do have exponents. We can only do the part right here where exponents are presented. 3 to the second power is the same thing as that base being multiplied by itself 2 times. Once, twice. 3 by 3 is 9. So this comes out to be 9. After we finish that one step, we're just going to bring down all the leftovers that we have not touched yet. Multiplication, 2, subtraction, and 20. As well as the plus sign and the 5. All new problem. We did exponents, cross it out. Now we can do multiplying or dividing, whichever one comes first in the problem. We don't have division at all, so we can cross it out. But we do have multiplication. We can perform multiplication in this one. 2 multiplied by 9 is 18. I just finished one thing at a time, so I'm going to bring down the leftovers. Subtraction, 20. I haven't used that. The plus sign, I haven't used that. And the 5. Now we have two things. Remember I told you before that adding or subtracting can be done first. It seems like you would do adding first and then subtract. But actually that's not the case. You actually have to do whichever one you see first in the problem from left to right. So I see subtraction first. 20 minus 18 is 2. I did subtraction. There's still addition left. I'm going to bring down the leftover, which is the plus sign and the 5. 2 plus 5 is 7, and the correct answer should be 7. Next thing we're going to do is write an easy problem. Something like 6 plus 2 in parentheses multiplied by 4 outside the parentheses. So we're going to write PEMDAS again. Parentheses, exponents, multiply, divide, add, subtract. Draw an arrow for this to remember that these are interchangeable. You could do whichever one comes first. And the same thing here. Do whichever one comes first. Alright, in the problem here, we do have parentheses. We're going to do that first. Parentheses means you are going to solve the problem inside the parentheses. So we're going to solve 6 plus 2, which is 8. Now parentheses don't go away, so keep them there. Multiplication sign gets brought down, and the 4. The only step that's left is 4 multiplied by 8. We have nothing else to follow here, so we're going to do 4 times 8, which is 32, and this question is finished. Okay, our next problem has 30 minus parentheses, 10 plus 5 in the parentheses, division symbol, and 3. First thing we do always is write PEMDAS. Now, some people remember this as please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Whichever way you want to remember it is fine. I'd like to remember it just as PEMDAS because I keep using this all the time. Parentheses, then exponents, then multiply or divide, then add or subtract. Let's start off with the first value, which is going to be the parentheses. Solve the inside of the parentheses. 10 plus 5 is 15. This is still in parentheses. We bring down the leftovers. Minus sign, 30, division sign, and 3. The next thing we do is we look at to see if we have any exponents. I don't see any exponents, so cross it out. There is multiplying or dividing. No multiplying at all in this case, but there is dividing. We're going to do dividing. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Cross out dividing and bring down the leftovers. We did that part. We have to bring down the minus sign we haven't used and the 30. Now you don't have to look at the order of operations anymore because there's only one step left over. 30 minus 5 is 25. Our final answer is 25. Okay, the next problem we have in this set looks like has these things which are called brackets, and we also have parentheses. Again, more parentheses and then more brackets. So think of it as the brackets as the same thing as parentheses. You kind of want to get all the way inside first. And you want to do all this first because it's all inside the brackets. Once you're finished with this problem, we're going to do that outside of the parentheses part. So write PEMDAS, parentheses. Well, we actually have two parentheses inside the brackets. We have that one and that one. Which one are you supposed to do first? Well, it's always going to be the one on the left and then the one on the right. So 16 minus 14 is 2. That was in the parentheses. Then we're going to do this parentheses as well. 9 multiplied by 4 is 36. That was the inside the parentheses. What's left over? Left over is the plus sign. Left over are the brackets and that bracket. Oh, and the division symbol and 2. Now, all this is still in the brackets. And remember I told you that brackets are the same as parentheses. So we have to finish all the parentheses work here. 2 plus 36 is 38. This was the answer to the brackets inside the brackets. What's left over? The division symbol and the 2. Now we just have to think how many 2's go into 38. 38 divided by 2 is 19. And this seems like it would be the correct answer. 19 is the solution to all that work. The next question in the set has 4 times brackets, then parentheses, 3 plus 9 close parentheses divided by 6, and then finish off the brackets. The brackets are very similar to parentheses, and think of them as the same as parentheses, except they are shaped differently. So I'm going to write PEMDAS. Parentheses are the same as brackets, so thinking of brackets as the same as parentheses, we're going to do P first for parentheses. Cross out parentheses. So all this work in the brackets, which is parentheses, should be solved first. What comes first? Is it dividing or is it the parentheses within the parentheses? Well, actually, it has to be this part first. The P is first before multiplying or dividing. So we're going to solve 3 plus 9, which is 12. We did that part. We carry down the leftovers, which is division symbol and 6. We bring down the brackets, because this was all in the brackets. We bring down multiplication, which was there, and the 4. Now, there's only one step left in the brackets, which is 12 divided by 6. This gives us 2. This was the answer to the brackets. Outside the brackets we had multiplication and 4. We only have one operation left. 4 times 2, which is 8. All done. I wanted to go over with you the distributive property. So the distributive property typically takes one digit value, for example 8, and multiplying it by something like 14. What you want to do is take a double digit number and split it into 2 parts that still add up to that same value. So 8 is being multiplied by those two things together. 14 would be the same thing as 10 and 4 more. 10 and 4 more would be still 14. That's how we split the number 14. Now we can take 8 and distribute. Distribute means to give out. So it's going to be 8 multiplied by 10. Plus sign comes down. And 8 multiplied by 4. 8 multiplied by 4 gets written down. We solve 8 multiplied by 10 and 8 multiplied by 4. So 8 times 10 is 80. And 8 times 4 is 32. Eventually this kind of helps you with mental math. So you can think of it as 8 multiplied by that first digit, which was not 1, it's actually a 10. It's 8 times 10. And it's also 8 times 4 that you're multiplying. You're doing that together, so you're adding these two together. 80 plus 32 would be 112. 112. I should not say and, because and means decimal. So the answer is 112. Next question using distributive property is 6 multiplied by 53. 53 has to be broken up into two parts that still add up to 53. So you can do 50 and 3. You're multiplying 6 by these two values. So when you're doing that, you're doing 6 times 50. You also bring down the plus sign, and you're also going to multiply 6 times 3. This is you distributing. You're taking the 6 and distributing it to the 50. You're taking the 6 and distributing it to the 3. 6 times 3. Now, you're going to solve this and that. Remember, multiplying comes before adding or subtracting. 6 times 50. Well, 6 times 5, you can think of it this way, is 30. Extra digit 0 gets brought down, so the answer is 300. 6 times 3 is 18. Now remember to add these two values. 300 plus 18 would be 318. Okay, another problem like that with distributive property could be 3 multiplied by 64. 64 could be broken up into 60 plus 4. Now we're taking the 3 and multiplying it by these two values. So we're going to go 3 times 60. And also we're going to do 3 times 4. That plus sign comes down. You solve this part, and then you solve that part, and then you're going to add it all together. 3 times 60 is 180. Plus sign. 3 times 4 is 12. All together, the sum of 180 and 12 would be 192.